In the dense, misty hills of Nagaland, where the clouds kiss the mountain peaks and the winds whisper ancient secrets, there lived a young girl named Senuo. Her beauty was unmatched, with long, jet-black hair that cascaded like a waterfall down her back and eyes that sparkled like the stars on a moonless night. She was the daughter of the village chief, beloved by her people for her kind heart and wisdom beyond her years. The village of Kanoma lay nestled in the valley, surrounded by thick forests where few dared to wander. The people had lived in peace for generations, but they were always cautious of the forest, for it was said to be the home of the Yulam, the great serpent king, a creature older than the hills themselves. Stories were told of how the Yulam could shapeshift and control the waters of the rivers, its presence lurking beneath the surface of every stream and lake. One evening, while the villagers prepared for the annual harvest festival, Senuo felt a strange pull. It was as if the wind was calling her name, whispering something she could not understand. Her heart beat faster as she stood at the edge of the village, gazing toward the forest, her feet itching to move. "Senuo, where are you going?" called her friend Tasio, running to catch up with her. His voice broke the trance, and she turned to him, forcing a smile. "Nowhere, Tasio. I was just thinking," she replied, though even she wasn't sure what was happening. The pull, however, only grew stronger as the days passed. That night, after the festival's lively dances and songs, Senuo lay restless in her bamboo hut. The village was silent, except for the gentle hum of insects and the occasional rustle of the trees. Then she heard it, a hissing sound, faint but unmistakable, weaving through the air like a soft lullaby. Her body moved on its own accord, rising from her bed. Barefoot and trembling, she followed the sound toward the edge of the forest. Her heart pounded as the trees loomed tall and dark around her, their branches intertwining like skeletal arms. A mist curled at her feet, thickening with every step, until she reached a clearing. And there, in the moonlight, she saw it, a massive snake coiled around an ancient stone altar. Its scales shimmered like liquid silver, and its eyes glowed a deep, eerie yellow. The Yulam. Fear gripped her, but something deeper, something older, kept her rooted to the spot. The snake's eyes locked onto hers, and suddenly, the world around her faded. She was no longer in the forest, but in a vast, underwater kingdom, standing before the throne of the Yulam. His voice echoed in her mind, low and hypnotic. "Do not fear me, child of the earth," the serpent said. "I have watched you since your birth. You are destined for something greater, something that your people cannot understand." Senuo's voice trembled as she spoke. "What do you want from me?" The snake uncoiled slightly, its body swaying rhythmically. "A great danger is coming to your village. A drought that will turn your lands barren, and a sickness that will strike down your people. Only I can save them, but I need you to bind your fate to mine." Senuo's heart raced. "What does that mean?" The Yulam shifted, its massive head lowering to her level. "You must become my bride. In return, I will grant your village prosperity and protect them for all time." Her mind whirled with fear and confusion. Marry a serpent? It was unthinkable. But the vision of her people suffering, her family, her friends, tugged at her heart. She thought of her father, the village chief, and the weight of responsibility that rested on his shoulders. Could she bear the guilt of knowing she could have saved them, but chose not to? "I need time," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The Yulam nodded, his glowing eyes never leaving hers. "I will give you 3 nights. After that, if you do not return, your village will face the consequences." With a flick of its tail, the serpent disappeared, and Senuo found herself standing in the clearing once more. The mist had lifted, and the moon shone brightly overhead. She stumbled back to her village, her mind a storm of thoughts and emotions. What was she to do? Senuo did not speak of what had happened to anyone, not even Tasio. She watched the sun rise, casting its golden light over the fields, and wondered if it would be the last time the crops would grow. That night, as the village slept, Senuo wandered to the river's edge. The water was calm, but it held a strange silence, as if even the creatures within knew of the impending doom. She knelt by the water and prayed to the spirits of her ancestors, asking for guidance. But no voice came, only the soft ripple of the river. Her heart was heavy, and as she walked back to her hut, she felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. The village continued its daily routine, unaware of the dark future that lay ahead. Senyo, however, could not escape it. The Yulam's voice echoed in her mind every time she closed her eyes. That evening, she climbed the hill above the village, looking down at the homes of her people. She saw the children playing, the women preparing food, and the men discussing the upcoming harvest. Taseo found her there, his brow furrowed in concern. "You've been distant lately," he said. "Is something troubling you?" Senyo turned to him, wanting to confide in her old friend but knowing the burden of her secret was too great to share. "It's nothing, Taseo. Just thoughts of the future." He smiled gently. "Whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone. We're family, all of us." She nodded, though her heart ached with the weight of her unspoken truth. Time was running out. The final night came swiftly, and Senyo knew she had to make her choice. As the village slept, she made her way to the forest once more. The moon was full, casting long shadows across the ground. She reached the clearing, and there, waiting for her, was the Yulam. "You have come," the serpent said, its voice cold and calculating. "Have you made your decision?" Senyo's hands trembled, but she stood tall. "I cannot marry you." The Yulam hissed, its body coiling tighter around the stone altar. "Then you have doomed your people." "I do not believe that the spirits of the land would allow such suffering," Senyo said, her voice growing stronger. "There must be another way." The serpent's eyes flashed with anger. "There is no other way." As the Yulam reared back, preparing to strike, a blinding light filled the clearing. Senyo shielded her eyes, and when she looked again, an old man stood between her and the serpent. His hair was white as snow, and his robe shimmered like the morning dew. "You forget, Yulam," the old man said, his voice like the rumble of distant thunder, "that the will of the spirits cannot be bent to your desires." The Yulam hissed in frustration but lowered its head. "This girl has defied me. She must pay." The old man turned to Senyo and smiled. "You have shown great courage, child. The spirits have heard your prayers, and they will protect your village." With that, the Yulam vanished, its body dissolving into mist. The old man too disappeared, leaving Senyo alone in the clearing, her heart racing but her spirit unbroken. When she returned to the village, the drought never came, and her people remained safe. Senyo never spoke of the events of those 3 nights, but she knew in her heart that she had faced a great trial and emerged victorious. The legend of the Yulam and the brave girl who defied him lived on, passed down through generations, a reminder of the power of courage and the strength of the human spirit.